One of the features I really like about ISA Server 2006 is the connectivity verifier. Now, as the name would suggest, a connectivity verifier is a feature in ISA Server that you can use to verify that connectivity exists between the ISA server and a destination, such as a server or a website. For example, we could use this connectivity verifier to verify that our corporate website is up and running, or we could verify that our Exchange server is responding. Or in other words, if you prefer, it's a method of monitoring either an internal or an external network host. Now sure, it's not as comprehensive a monitoring tool as a dedicated solution like Microsoft System Center Operations Manager, but it's a pretty good freebie. So to use this feature in our ISA Server Management Console, under our server, we'll select Monitoring, and in the tabs in the middle, we're going to choose Connectivity Verifiers. Now, as you can see, this window is blank because we don't get any connectivity verifiers by default, and that's rather logical, really, because Microsoft, well, they've really got no idea what you want to monitor, so why would they include any? So let's create one. So over on the right-hand side, we're going to click the link here to create a new connectivity verifier. And of course, that's going to fire up the new connectivity verifier wizard. So we'll need to start by giving our connectivity verifier a name. So let's say that we're interested in monitoring Active Directory. So let's just call ours AD and we'll click Next. Now here's where we'll be configuring what target it is that we want to monitor. Now since we're talking about monitoring Active Directory, we're going to click Browse, we'll click Advanced, and then we'll click Find Now, and we'll locate our jorkus.com domain controller, which is this one, LADC. So we'll select that, we'll click OK, and OK again. And of course, if you prefer, you can simply just type that into that field if you'd rather do that. Now from this drop-down box here, we'll need to select what type of connectivity verifier that we're interested in. Now obviously the default one, which is Internet, that's not the one we're really looking for. We've got options here for Active Directory, DHCP, DNS, others. Now we could use that for a ping test, and published servers. So obviously we're doing a connectivity verifier for Active Directory right now, so we'll select that. And you'll note that down here, this is now changed so that our verifier will try and establish a connection on the LDAP port of 389. So it's going to try and contact our domain controller on this port to see if it can connect. Now, if it can connect, then we can assume that Active Directory is humming along nicely. If it's not able to connect, well, then we've got a problem. But do note, though, if we select this drop-down box here, we've got this long list of different things that we're able to monitor. And I'm not going to go through this list, but suffice to say that most things you're going to want to monitor are going to be in this list. Not bad for an application that doesn't even list monitoring as one of its features. Alright, so let's click Next here, and then we'll click Finish. Alright, now we'll need to apply that change. And now our connectivity verifier is up and running, and it'll be actively monitoring the connection to Active Directory. So if we go and click on the Dashboard tab, up here in the left-hand side in the Connectivity Verifiers section, you can see that it's currently verifying the connection to Active Directory. And shortly that should change to good if everything is okay. Now also note that in the heading for our connectivity verifiers we have this green tick here, well this icon here, and this is always going to show us the status of the most critical event that we have in each section. So if we've got a warning or an error message, over here we can see we've got this warning, then our icon is representative of this by showing us a little warning icon there. And you'll also note that while we were talking about that, our Active Directory connectivity verifier has changed to good. So now that our monitor is active, let's go back to our Connectivity Verifiers tab and let's double click. In fact, you'll notice now we've got that little green tick telling us that it's all good. So let's double click on our Active Directory entry here and we'll go to the Properties tab. And whilst we can change any of the configuration options we've already talked about, when we created this connectivity verifier, the part I'm interested here is this bit at the bottom. Now here you can see the timeout value for our monitor, which is set to 5,000 milliseconds. So by default, if our Active Directory hasn't responded to our verifier's request within the value specified here, then we'll trigger an alert. And that alert will of course go to our Alerts tab. So back to our Connectivity Verifiers tab, we're going to click on Create a New One. Now we'll need to give this a name, so let's say that we're interested in seeing if the Winstructor website is up and running. Well, that's an external website. It's got nothing to do with this domain that we're on right now, and it's nothing to do with our lab here. So as far as this ISA server goes, the Winstructor website is just another site on the internet. So I'm going to call this Connectivity Verifier Winstructor, and we'll click Next. Now here's where we'll configure what target it is that we want to monitor. Now since we're talking about monitoring a website, I'm just going to enter in the URL here of winstructor.com. Obviously in the drop down box here on the right, we're going to leave it to the default one of Internet. Now we're doing a connectivity verifier for a web server. So the default here is to perform a GET request for the default page at winstructor.com, which is exactly what your web browser would do if you were to point it to winstructor.com manually. So that's great. We'll click Next and then Finish. Now since this is our first HTTP verifier, we will get a pop-up message asking us if we want to enable a rule in our system policy which will allow the ISA server to access HTTP verifiers. So of course we're going to say yes, and then we'll apply this change. Alright, now note that we've now got two verifiers here. Active Directory of course has that green tick, and the Winstructor one here currently has an hourglass, although it is a little small to see it, but it is there. Now shortly we should see this change to the green tick as well, assuming that the Winstructor site is up and we can reach it. Okay, well there you go, it just changed to green for our web verifier, so let's go to our dashboard tab here. And there in the Connectivity Verifiers section we've got both our Active Directory and our web one showing good. But let's quickly go and simulate a problem. Let's go back to our Connectivity Verifiers tab, and we'll double click here on the Winstructor entry. We'll go to Properties, and I'm going to change this timeout value here from 5,000 milliseconds to 1 millisecond, and click OK. Now since there's no way that my net connection here will ever get to the Winstructor website in 1 millisecond, this is obviously going to pose a problem. And if everything works the way it should, ISA is of course going to generate an alert. Now straight away, of course, you can see here that our icon has changed to a warning, so let's switch back to our dashboard tab, and there you go, it just refreshed itself. So straight away you can see what I'm talking about. Our heading icon here has changed to yellow, indicating we've got a problem. Now we can still get to the web server, so connectivity to the website isn't dead, but it's now determined to be slow since it's not capable of delivering the goods according to our unreasonable 1 millisecond request. So when these alerts get generated, you're going to see them appear here in the Alerts tab. And from here you can select one of these, we'll select any, it doesn't really matter. And if we right click on it, we could acknowledge the event, so other administrators will be aware that we know about it. And if you just want to remove it from the console, you can click Reset, and it's going to disappear from the console altogether. Just be aware though, that if the problem still exists, ISA server will generate a new event the next time it polls that target again. In this video, we've talked about connectivity verifiers. Whilst these connectivity verifiers are no subject for a real dedicated heavyweight monitoring system like Microsoft System Center Operations Manager, it's certainly a good freebie application thrown straight into ISA server. So take a look, I'm sure you'll like it. So we hope you've enjoyed this video, and would like to thank you for watching.